Hi, welcome. It's Friday, May 4th, and it's good to be here with you. And today in our reading in First Chronicles, we're in that chapters 26, 27, 28. And very interesting, a number of things going on here today. But I must tell you, I was reading this, and I've read it now for several days, going back and forth over and over it, trying to think, what hits me, what strikes me, and there are a number of things, but nothing really jumped out at me. And there was finally, as I was thinking about it and saw one reference from a commentator, it really spoke to me, and that's really what I want to share with you today. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what's going on here. We see in chapters 27 and 28, we see almost this looking back. In 26, 27, we have this outlining of all of the different officials, the gatekeepers, the treasurers, the army commanders. And then in 28, we have this looking forward where David is saying Solomon's going to take over and his job's going to be to build the temple. And by the way, I have some instructions for him. They came from the Lord, but they're very detailed, and you need to follow him, and he needs to stay true to the Lord. So we have this going on. But what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today is that this little verse in what is it, chapter, and I've got my Bible here, chapter 27, verse 23, which says, David did not take the number of the men 20 years old or less, because the Lord had promised to make Israel as numerous as the stars in the sky. Joab, son of Zeruiah, began to count the men, but did not finish. Wrath came upon Israel on account of this numbering, and the number was not entered into the book of the annals of King David. I thought that's really interesting, because here, I don't know about you, but as I read this account today, what struck me, if you've been reading along, and we've been going through Samuel and Chronicles and some of the other writings, Joshua and Judges, it's like, gosh, we're in the midst of this battle, and they're following God, and God is leading them, and they're doing all sorts of things, and it's very exciting, very unorganized, very chaotic. I got to these readings now today, and it was like, whoa. We come to the end of David's reign, 33 years in Jerusalem, and what is it, 7 years in Hebron, and it was like, it's like very settled, very ordered, very, you don't hear a lot about battles anymore. We just have this general organization that's now taken place. It's like we've got a government, we've got a country, and something's changed, and it struck me. That what we have now is through David's reign, this expansion of the kingdom, and almost now this need to have a government and an organization and all sorts of people serving that organization, and we now have order, whereas before we had lots of chaos. Now, I think that's good, because I think order certainly comes from God. 6 days you shall work, 1 day you shall rest. There's order in all of creation, the seasons of the year. God is a God of order. He put order into our lives. But I was also thinking that, so often the thing that can be our strength can also be our weakness. And I think in the case of order, in our Christian faith, in our lives as followers of God, of Jesus Christ, that same thing can be true. And I'm reminded of the example, as many of you are aware of, Mary and Martha. Martha was all about the details and the organization of the work that had to be done. And Mary was much more about, well, Jesus is here, let's listen to him and be guided by him and see where he wants to go, because that's what's most important. And so I think here we have just an example where David, who of course has led this continued growth and structure in Israel, has done a census, we know already, and got punished for that. and has built up all his armies. He's got them doing things in various months. He's got gatekeepers guarding various gates. He's got people guarding the various treasuries. He's got all this organization. He's even got officials and judges out in the countryside to adjudicate over issues and conflicts. So he's got all this structure and organization. But it's almost like, and I know 2 days ago I said, pridefully he wanted to do that other census because he got kind of enwrapped with his army. But I think this time it's a little more subtle. It's a little different. It's almost like, well, I need to take another census of those 20 and under, which of course God had forbidden because they weren't eligibly used for the army at that point yet. But it's almost like he just got so wrapped up in the order of what he was doing that he was not letting God be God. He was not looking to God and seeing what God wanted. He was more in tune with, I got to keep order. And I think sometimes we do that in our lives. We want to fit God into our box. We think we got it figured out, and now we just want to keep it. I think we do that in the church sometimes, where we get so involved in the structure and the organization and the ritual that we forget that it is God who's leading his church. It is his Spirit who lives and works in us and moves, and we need to be open and ready to go when God leads. And I'm wondering if we don't do that, if then we start missing what God would have us do and be. And so I guess what I'm saying today is there's going to be a tension between God and his leadership and sovereignty in our lives and the need for order, because you can't have just one or the other. It's great to say, I'm going to follow God wherever he goes, but if you don't do some sort of calculating and planning and structure to what you're doing, even the best of intentions aren't going to work out well. So as we examine our own lives, where is God leading? Have we provided that opportunity to seek his face first and seek him out and what his will is, and then order what goes on around us? Or maybe have we built that order so tightly that we're so comfortable with it that we would rather not hear anything new from God? And so I would just share that with you today, because it just struck me in this reading how different it seemed to be from previous chapters, where you've got battle after battle and they're running and hiding, and we got spies and they're going all over the place. And I'm sure we'll get back to some of that. But here it was like, okay, they've got all this organization, they've got a country, they've got a government, everything is settled. And the truth is, with God, it's not settled. We're always on a journey in this life, and always need to be ready to be on the move. And so that's kind of a challenge for me today. And maybe you don't deal with that at all. Maybe you're very comfortable with letting God be God. But nonetheless, I think human nature being what it is, there are times we all may need a little bit of course correction. And in this case, have some order, but look where God is leading and be ready to jump when he opens a door. So I pray that your day goes well, and we'll look forward to talking with you again.